Hey, welcome to our explainer. Today we're going to talk about something that often gets overshadowed by its more famous cousin, and that's complex PTSD, or C-PTSD.
And this right here, this question is really the heart of it all. It makes you stop and think, right? What if trauma isn't always this single, big, explosive event? What if instead, it's something that just goes on and on and on?
Okay, so to really get a handle on C-PTSD, we first have to talk about what it's not. Let's look at how it differs from the PTSD most of us have heard about.
You know, when most of us hear PTSD, our minds jump to a very specific kind of event, right? Like a car crash, a natural disaster, or a soldier's experience in combat. It's something terrible for sure, but it has a clear start and a clear finish.
All right, so this slide really lays it all out. With standard PTSD, you've got that one single event. The big problem then becomes avoiding anything that reminds you of it, because that's what makes you feel unsafe. But C-PTSD, that's a whole different ballgame. We're not talking about one event. We're talking about trauma that's prolonged, repeated, something you couldn't get away from, like long-term child abuse or domestic violence. And the impact? Wow, it's so much deeper. It doesn't just threaten your sense of safety, it can totally warp your sense of who you are and leave you feeling completely and utterly powerless.
So, let's dig into the symptoms, because this is where you really see how C-PTSD works. Think of it this way. Someone with C-PTSD has all the classic PTSD symptoms, but then there's this whole other layer of challenges they have to deal with too.
Okay, so first up, you've got the core PTSD stuff that you might already be familiar with. Things like re-experiencing the trauma, flashbacks and nightmares. There's avoiding anything that could be a reminder. And then the mood stuff, anger, anxiety, and just being constantly on edge, that state of hypervigilance.
But, and this is a big but, for C-PTSD, the story doesn't stop there.
On top of everything we just mentioned, folks with C-PTSD are wrestling with three other major challenges. First, emotional regulation is just incredibly difficult. Second, it can fundamentally change how you see yourself. You might even feel totally disconnected from your own body. And third, it wreaks havoc on relationships. It becomes so hard to trust people and to feel safe with anyone. And that emotional piece, this phrase, flat to furious, just nails it. It perfectly describes what can happen. Because your brain's alarm system has been blaring for so long, it's basically shot. So you can go from feeling absolutely nothing, just numb, to feeling completely enraged or terrified in the blink of an eye, often over the smallest thing. And it is so important to get this next part. These symptoms, they are not a choice. This isn't about just trying harder. There are real, physical reasons for this happening in the brain.
Yeah, you heard that right. Long-term trauma literally changes the physical structure of your brain. It messes with something called the HPA axis. Think of it as your body's main control panel for stress. It can also change your amygdala, which is like the brain's smoke detector for fear, and the hippocampus, which is crucial for memories. This is a physical injury. It is not a character flaw.
And get this number. It's absolutely staggering. A whopping 81% of adults who are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder also report a history of serious trauma, like abuse or neglect. This just shows you how massive the overlap can be between these conditions. And you know what? It's why sometimes focusing too much on the exact label can miss the point.
Right, and that brings us to the most crucial point here. While labels can be helpful for understanding, getting bogged down in whether it's C-PTSD or BPD can make you miss the forest for the trees. The real key, the most effective path forward, is to treat the root of the problem, the trauma itself.
Okay, so if we know trauma is the root cause, what does healing even look like? How do you start to get better? This brings us to probably the most important part of this whole thing, the tools for taking back control.
So there's actually a roadmap for healing. It's not just a random walk in the dark. Step one is just learning, understanding that your symptoms are a totally normal reaction to a completely abnormal situation. It's not your fault. Next, and this is huge, you have to create safety, both around you and inside your own body. Once you have that foundation, you can start building awareness, reconnecting with what you're feeling. Then you can start doing the work to heal those wounded parts of yourself. And the final step is to process those traumatic memories so they're just memories, part of your past, not something that's running your life right now.
And I absolutely love this first analogy. Trying to just manage the symptoms, the anger, the anxiety, without dealing with the trauma underneath, it's like trying to put a tiny cap on an active volcano. Sooner or later, that pressure is going to build and it is going to blow.
And here's another one that's just as powerful. Trying to just manage symptoms is like getting an anesthetic shot for a broken leg, but never actually setting the bone.
Yeah, the pain might go numb for a little while, but the leg itself never ever heals properly.
Okay, so let's tie all of this together. What is the central, most important message when it comes to healing from complex PTSD?
This right here might be the most important thing to take away from our entire conversation today. All those symptoms, being on high alert, feeling numb, not being able to trust people, these aren't signs that you're broken. They were survival strategies. They were brilliant, adaptive ways your brain came up with to get you through an impossible situation.
And that's really the end goal, isn't it? Healing isn't about sucking it up or just forcing yourself to be strong. It's about creating a world, both inside you and outside you, where you finally feel safe enough to put down the armor and let that healing process actually happen.
So we want to leave you with a question to think about. Whether this is for you or for someone you love, what would it actually take to feel safe enough to heal? Because the answer to that question, well, that's where the real journey begins.